J is for Judgment by Sue Grafton. Copyright 1993 by Sue Grafton. This recording of the full-length reading of J is for Judgment was published by arrangement with Sue Grafton, care of the Aaron M. Priest Literary Agency, Incorporated, and was produced in 1994 by Books on Tape, Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Neither this recording nor any part thereof may be reproduced or used for any purpose without prior written authority from Books on Tape, Incorporated. This book is read by Mary Peiffer. Chapter 1. On the face of it, you wouldn't think there was any connection between the murder of a dead man and the events that changed my perceptions about my life. In truth, the facts about Wendell Jaffe had nothing to do with my family history. But murder is seldom tidy, and no one ever said revelations operate in a straight line. It was my investigation into the dead man's past that triggered the inquiry into my own, and in the end the two stories became difficult to separate. The hard thing about death is that nothing ever changes. The hard thing about life is that nothing stays the same. It began with a phone call. Not to me, but to Mac Voorhees, one of the vice presidents at California Fidelity Insurance, for whom I once worked. My name is Kinsey Millhone. I'm a licensed California private investigator working out of Santa Teresa, which is 95 miles north of Los Angeles. My association with CF Insurance had been terminated the previous December, and I hadn't had much occasion to return to 903 State. For the past 7 months, I'd been leasing office space from the law firm of Kingman and Dives. Lonnie Kingman's practice is largely criminal, but he also enjoys the complexities of trials involving accidental injury or wrongful death. He's been my attorney of record for a number of years, stepping in with legal counsel when the occasion arises. Lonnie is short and beefy, a bodybuilder and a scrapper. John Ives is the quiet one, who prefers the intellectual challenges of appellate work. I'm the only person I know who doesn't express routine contempt for all the lawyers in the world. Just for the record, I like cops, too. Anyone who stands between me and anarchy. Kingman and Ives occupies the entire upper floor of a small building downtown. Lonnie's firm consists of himself, his law partner John Ives, and an attorney named Martin Cheltenham, Lonnie's best friend, who leases offices from him. The bulk of the day-to-day work is attended by the 2 legal secretaries, Ida Ruth and Jill. We also have a receptionist named Allison and a paralegal named Jim Thicket. The space I moved into used to be a conference room with a makeshift kitchenette. After Lonnie annexed the last available office on the 3rd floor, he had a new kitchen built, along with a room for the copying equipment. My office is large enough to accommodate a desk, my swivel chair, some file cabinets, a mini refrigerator and coffee maker, plus a big storage closet stacked with packing boxes untouched since the move. I have my own separate phone line in addition to the 2 lines I share with the firm. I still have my answering machine, but in a pinch Ida Ruth covers incoming calls for me. For a while I made a pass at finding another office to rent. I had sufficient money to make the move. A sidebar to a case I was working before Christmas resulted in my picking up a $25,000 check. I put the money in some CDs, the bank kind, not the music, where it was happily collecting interest. In the meantime, I discovered how much I liked my current circumstances. The location was good, and it was nice to have people around me at work. One of the few disadvantages of living alone is not having anyone to tell when you're going someplace. At least now at work I had people who were aware of my whereabouts, and I could check in with them if I needed any mothering. For the past hour and a half on that Monday morning in mid-July, I'd sat and made phone calls on a skip trace I was working. A Nashville private investigator had written me a letter asking if I'd check local sources for his client's ex-husband, who was $6,000 in arrears on his child support. Rumor had it that the fellow had left Tennessee and headed for California with the intention of settling somewhere in Perdido or Santa Teresa counties. I'd been given the subject's name, his previous address, his birth date, and his Social Security number, with instructions to develop any lead I could. I also had the make and model of the vehicle he was last seen driving. as well as his Tennessee license plate number. I'd already written 2 letters to Sacramento, one to request driver's license information on the subject, another to see if he'd registered in his 1983 Ford pickup. Now I was calling the various public utility companies in the area, trying to see if there were any recent hookups in the guy's name. So far, I hadn't hit pay dirt, but it was fun anyway. For $50 an hour, I'll do just about anything. When Allison buzzed me on the intercom, I leaned over automatically and depressed the lever. "Yes?" "You have a visitor," she said. She's 24 years old, bubbly and energetic. She has blonde hair to her waist, buys all her clothes in a size 4 petite, and dots the I in her name with a heart or a daisy, depending on her mood, which is always good. Somehow she sounded as if she were calling on one of those telephones kids make with 2 Dixie cups and a length of string. "A Mr. Voorhees with California Fidelity Insurance?" Like a comic strip character, I could feel a question mark form above my head. I squinted, leaning closer. "Mac Voorhees is out there?" "You want me to send him back?" "I'll come out," I said. I couldn't believe it. Mac was the man who supervised most of the cases I'd worked for CF. It was his boss, Gordon Titus, who'd fired my sorry ass, and while I'd made my peace with the change in my employment, I could still feel a flush of adrenaline at the thought of the man. Briefly, I entertained a little fantasy that Gordon Titus had sent Mac to offer his abject apologies. Fat chance, I thought. I did a hasty survey of the office, hoping it didn't look like I'd fallen on hard times. The room wasn't large, but I had my own window, lots of clean white wall space, and burnt orange carpeting and an expensive wool shag. With 3 framed watercolors and a leafy 4-foot ficus plant, I thought the place looked very tasteful. Well, okay, the ficus was a fake, some sort of laminated fabric tinted with accumulated dust, but you really couldn't tell unless you got up real close. I would have checked my reflection. Mac's arrival was already having that effect. But I don't carry a compact, and I already knew what I'd see. Dark hair, hazel eyes, not a smidge of makeup. As usual, I was wearing jeans, my boots, and a turtleneck. I licked my palm and ran a hand across my shaggy head, hoping to smooth down any stick-up parts. The week before, in a fit of exasperation, I'd picked up a pair of nail scissors and whacked all my hair off. The results were just about what you'd expect. I hung a left in the corridor, passing several offices on my way to the front. Mac was standing by Allison's desk out in the reception area. Mac's in his early 60s, tall and scowling, with a flyaway halo of wispy gray hair. His brooding black eyes are set slightly askew in a long, bony face. In lieu of his usual cigar, he was smoking a cigarette, ash tumbling down the front of his 3-piece suit. Mac has never been one to plague himself with attempts at fitness, and his body at this point resembles a drawing from a child's perspective. Long arms and legs, foreshortened trunk with a little head stuck on top. I said, "Mac?" He said, "Hello, Kinsey," in a wonderful wry tone. I was so happy to see him that I started laughing out loud. Like some great galumphing pup, I loped over to the man and flung myself into his arms. This behavior was greeted by one of Mac's rare smiles, revealing teeth that were tarnished from all the cigarettes he smoked. "It's been a long time," he said. "I can't believe you're here. Come on back to my office and we can visit," I said. "You want some coffee?" "No, thanks, I just had some." Mac turned to stub out his cigarette, realizing belatedly that there weren't any ashtrays in the area. He looked around with puzzlement, his gaze resting briefly on the potted plant on Allison's desk. She leaned forward. "Here, why don't you let me take that?" She removed the cigarette from his fingers and took the burning butt directly to the open window, where she gave it a toss, peering out afterward to make sure it didn't land in someone's open convertible in the parking lot. Mac followed me down the hall, making polite responses as I filled him in on my current circumstances. When we reached my office, he was properly complimentary. We caught up on gossip, exchanging news about mutual friends. The pleasantries gave me time to study the man at close range. The years seemed to be speeding right along for him. He'd lost color. He'd lost about 10 pounds by the look of him. He seemed tired and uncertain, which was completely uncharacteristic. The Mac Voorhees of old had been brusque and impatient, fair-minded,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?